Fala meus queridos, fala minhas queridas, como é que vocês estão? Tudo certinho com vocês? Mais uma edição do Profissão Caster e a minha convidada do lado não tá entendendo nada que eu tô falando porque ela é caster do Overwatch Contenders América do Norte. Então é uma das primeiras entrevistas em inglês aqui do canal e por isso eu só tô começando em português, mas a entrevista inteira vai ser em inglês para que ela possa entender o que a gente tá falando. Inclusive, vou começar a falar inglês agora, então muito obrigado a você que está assistindo. Deixa o like, se inscreve, é nóis. So, Ham, Portuguese presentation done. Let's move on in English. So, how are you doing? Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me on, Tonello. It's super cool to get to collab together because we've known each other for a while now, kind of just, on like a professional level and like a friends level. And now we get to do something like some actual work together. So
Yeah, sure. I mean, I've already been on a lot of podcasts or talking shows back from Broadcast GG, and also it's been a long time, and it's great to have you here. And first of all, I mean, we both know that you don't have the most regular nickname of all time, so
what are you talking about?
Why HamTornado? I mean, where did it come from?
So like back in the day when I was first started like playing video games and stuff, I didn't actually like start out as a child playing many video games because like Chinese American parents, right? And video games
Yep.
were like bad, right? Like on the level of like drugs, right?
Oh,
So
all right.
nobody really never really had a chance to play anything as a child, but when I got into high school, I started getting into like RPGs and that kind of thing because you could just play it on your laptop secretly at night and when your
Yep.
like mom doesn't know what you're doing. And I got really into Oblivion and some of the other like Elder Scrolls games. And at one point, I saw like a YouTube video of just some guy. It was called HamTornado, and he
Oh,
console command spawned like 1,000 pieces of ham, and they fell off of a cliff and turned into like a spiral, so like a tornado, right? And that was like,
yeah.
oh, haha, funny and stuff. But it was one of the comments that said, HamTornado sounds like a porn of two butchers 69ing. And I was like, sold, done. Like I want this name. It's
That's
so
me.
funny.
That's for me.
Yeah.
Oh my God. All right. I thought that was from, I don't know, anything else but this, you know?
Yeah, right.
Anything
Well,
else
you're
but this.
welcome. So,
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, how did you start off casting? How was the beginning of it? Getting in contact with video games and with, like, let's say, technology in general after quite some time.
well, I started casting very serendipitously, I suppose. Like, I didn't like get a degree in broadcasting or anything like that.
Yeah.
I'd always loved Overwatch ever since like the first World Cup, which is when I started learning about it. And
Mm-hmm.
I went to DreamHack Denver, which is where I met Alex Gilfrost, otherwise known as Left Guy. And
Oh,
and so I just started talking to him and was like, hey, I'm like interested in casting, but I have no idea how to start. And he's the one who's like, well, I know of a server for people who are
mm-hmm.
interested in esports broadcasting. I was like, oh, cool. What's it called? And he was like, I don't know. and
Great.
um
Thank you.
and so exactly. Perfect. Thank you. But it really was. So then I started asking more people, and eventually it was actually Nuki who was, hey, I know it's broadcast GG. I'll get you an invite. So I
Mm-hmm.
joined BGG, and that's when I started kind of like getting into like the real nitty gritty because I had just been casting over like old Owl VODs or like, no, Owl wasn't even a thing. It was old like contenders VODs from like
Yep.
season 0. I would just mute it and just like talk over it by myself in like my
Sure.
basement. And,
Mm-hmm.
but once I joined BGG, then there were like more people, right? I could find a partner and we could, find scrims and stuff. And that's how scrim nights started. And from then on, it was just history, right? So
Yes, I mean, I'm a huge fan of Broadcast GG actually, and if I ever want to go like to a level of an English caster, maybe try and do it. At one point, I'll totally go to BGG because the guys there seem so professional. I mean, I was able to meet you all on last BlizzCon and was a huge experience for me. And I mean, you mentioned a point very important for us in Brazil as well because here we have no like school of casting, you know.
mhm.
We have no possibility of getting a degree. I mean, we have, but we have for like soccer, we don't have for esports or anything like that. And
Right.
they're not like minor degrees or whatever. They're just these course that you take for like 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and that's it. You're a caster, you know. And I don't think that's what it takes to become a professional caster. So, is there any kind of course in America that teaches you to be an esport caster or a sports in general caster, or do you all go through this process of self-learning and self-teaching?
That's a good question. So I ended up going to school for like something totally different. I was majoring in biology, so I
Oh.
wasn't very aware of like what the various degrees were for people who wanted to go into like broadcasting or entertainment and that kind of thing. So I'm
Mhm.
not quite sure. I know that there's like definitely broadcast journalism degrees, but I'm pretty sure there's some kind of degree that I've like, because I've actually casted quite a lot of the college scene, and I'll
Mhm.
talk to like the players and be like, hey, what are you guys majoring in? Are you interested in becoming players, casters, that kind of thing? And quite a few of them are like, oh yeah, I'm pursuing a degree in like broadcasting. And so
Oh.
there must be some kind of program at, some various colleges, but I'm not certain of the details.
Nice. I mean, it helps a lot because, as I said, even the most non-casters from Brazil, they've all self-taught themselves to do that. You know, they're not. They may maybe have a degree. They may have some help from a school or from a course, but not a whole degree like a minor, or major, or whatever
Hmm.
that actually teaches them to do so. And in the beginning, maybe back on the VOD studying or on the basement casting with BGG or whatever that you mentioned,
Uh-huh.
what were your difficulties? I mean, what were you struggling a lot with?
Oh, I don't have difficulties. I'm practically perfect in every way.
Okay, so
Um,
that's it, guys. Thank you so.
no, so I mean, there's probably tons of difficulties, like anybody who's like just starting out casting, right?
Mhm.
So, I mean, one of the big ones was just having the confidence. Personally, this is like just having the confidence
Yep.
to cast with intent. So, like, you know the game, you play the game, right? And you know these teams and stuff, but being able to deliver a piece of content, like be like, they lost that fight because of this, right,
Yeah.
is
Exactly.
was a very hard thing for me to overcome initially, because I would always second guess myself and like be like, well, maybe it wasn't that, right, and then waffle and
Hmm.
take way too long to finally get to my point and not be concise enough. So I think, like,
Yeah.
technically speaking, that was probably my biggest struggle, just in terms of like casting well. But
Hmm.
beyond like the actual mechanics of casting, I think probably like the hardest thing to do was just to try and find opportunities by myself and make opportunities happen. Because
Sure.
like you were saying, right, nobody there's not really a place where it's like, okay, well, if you do this, then you'll get this job, and once you get this job, then you get this job, right? And like there's like
Yep.
check marks and like a list that you go through, and this is how to be like a successful commentator, right? It's a lot of like it has to be a lot of internal motivation to push you to go and like cold call people, for example, and be like, hey, like, it looks like you have a tournament this weekend, do you need any commentators? I cast
Exactly.
Overwatch, right? And
Hmm.
then you get rejected.
Yeah,
And
sure.
then
That
but you
happens a
just got to
lot.
do it again, and you do it again, right? And so that was probably like the other really difficult part for me, coming from like a science background, where it's like 1 plus 1 is always 2, right?
Exactly.
And
Hmm.
like, water is made of hydrogen and oxygen. There's a lot of It's very defined. But in
Hmm.
casting, or just in entertainment in general, I would assume like there's not really a set way to succeed, and that ambiguity really tore at me for a very long time.
Yeah, and do you think that's a good characteristic or a bad one? Because maybe if there were this whole casting school, major casting degree or whatever, you as a biologist wouldn't get to cast anything. So do you think that's a good point to maybe even have like maybe worse casters casting greater events, or maybe a huge surprising casting not fighting opportunities? What's your take on it? Do you think it's a good thing or a bad thing not to have a certain path to pro in casting?
Hmm. That's a good question. See, this is really interesting. I'm really enjoying this talk already, because like I hadn't really considered like a casting school being a negative ever,
Yeah.
right? Because like that's essentially what we try to do at BGG, is we provide resources for like, you know, just the community at a very grassroots level. Like, you want to try and start learning how to cast, well, we have some like workshops you can watch on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
Like, we'll find you a game and you can practice with it with your partner. And I always just assumed that that was like a good thing, right? That if everybody kind of like follows these rules and like best practices. But I suppose, you know, if you uh look at the guys who are casting Owl currently, I mean, I actually interviewed like Hex and ZP about, you know, how did you get into casting? And it wasn't like I learned how to speak this way, right? And then I, you know, like did this and this. It was kind of just, again, luck of the draw, kind of like fell into this, and they were naturally very
Yeah.
good at it and enjoyed it and wanted to commentate, and that was what drove them. So I suppose there could be arguments made that like by sterilizing the process, or by like, you know, making it very by the books, that you lose kind of some of that like creative juice, or that
Or or
verve,
or
or that kind of thing.
or maybe the other side as well, because I think that this generation of casters that we have right now, I mean, most of it have not studied a lot. I mean, as you guys do at BGG, for example.
Oh,
So
we study all the time.
I'm just giving you a good impression, right? So
Oh, thank you.
I'm just advertising you guys. But anyways, I think that maybe this generation of casters we have right now, they haven't really gone through this process of studying a lot with workshops and all. And I think that the next generation of casters might be even better than what we have right now, and might even like evolve much quicker than what we have evolved back in the
Hmm.
days. And I mean, I think that's very interesting, because maybe some people who are working right now and who have become like the great stars of all times, the epic casters, like the titans of casting, they might just not fell apart, but they might lose some opportunities because of new casters who come exactly from BGGs around the world, who are studying and studying and studying and studying. And I think that maybe if, for example, if I was required a degree to cast, I wouldn't be a caster because I have none, you know. So
Hmm.
I mean, that's, I think that we started off, we just beginning to know that we have a profession in esports, not on not
Hmm.
on regular sports, traditional sports, because there you have a lot of journalism and everything involved. But for esports, I think we're beginning to form a conception of profession, and that has begun like 5, maybe 10 years ago at most.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's kind of new. It's kind of new. And talking about influences, who were your influences to begin casting? I mean, who were the non having degree casters you followed and enjoyed and maybe took a grasp? I don't know.
I
Maybe.
actually don't know a single caster who has like taken a casting course and then became a caster. Like all of the casters I admire all kind of just like fell into it. But I actually want to touch upon your point earlier,
Hmm.
which is like, hey, you know, all of these great casters that have like found their way into these positions and are doing a really good job and like kind of setting the
Yep.
standard for the rest of us, like, you know, what happens when they retire or move on into different positions, right? I think that like, whether, you know, the schoolification or the academification of casting is good or bad, one thing that it does provide is a way for you to train up like that next generation of casters, because
Yeah.
we want like Overwatch League to continue. We want like the next, you know, whatever future Overwatch League to have like many generations of casters who will have those best practices down. And I feel like, I mean, I do like a feedback series with Boop, where we just, any young up and coming caster can submit a VOD and we will go over it and, you know, spend time and be like, hey, you know, here's some of these pointers, maybe consider trying some of these things out. And we do
Yep.
that because I feel very strongly that while it may, you know, make my current position a little less secure, because I'm essentially training other people to take my job, right?
Exactly. Yep.
but but like, you have to, at least I try and look like beyond just like where I am right now to like the future of casting, right? Because like, I'm not going to be doing this forever, and I
Hmm.
want whoever's going to be covering contenders later, or, you know, that kind of thing, to have the tools and the ability and like, you know, to do that job really well and entertain the viewers,
Yep.
and I feel super strongly about that. So I think that, like, just in general, it's always a good thing to provide those resources and that feedback for whoever needs it.
Sure, and these people might help you in the future. Maybe, I don't know, if
Hmm.
they have a chance, they might tell it to the organizer. I don't know, maybe I have this person here, HamTornado. She casts well. I mean, invite her as well to the next game. I don't know. These people might help you. And there is a saying that goes by, when you teach is the. I mean, teaching is the moment that you have to know the most to be
Yeah.
able to do that properly. When you teach someone, you are learning so much out of that, because if you don't know what you're teaching, you're going to be completely lost, right? And I've already gone through
Yeah.
that, because I am with a casting, like, coaching project here
Oh.
in Brazil. And I've gone through that. Sometimes I go like, okay, so I'm gonna teach this to this guy, but is that exactly the correct? How do I do it? And,
Hmm.
and this kind of thoughts go through my mind, and they are always very important to be thought of, I believe. And talking about broadcast GG and the studying and all, what was your, like, key point to go pro? What exactly made you go pro? Was it the invite for the Overwatch Contenders North America? What was it?
Well, this is like, this is a deep dive into the HamTornado archives. But so I essentially, like, because I was studying at the University of California, Berkeley for a few years, but was having a really hard time. Just I I think that actually a lot of us in esports find ourselves here because of, maybe we're just like searching for a community that fit us better. And so I was like having a hard time and not really finding exactly the success and happiness that I was expecting to find,
Yep.
academically. And so I came back home, and I was like, you know, I gotta do something, right? And this casting thing, I think I can make something for myself, but you do have to be realistic. I was very clear with myself, like, this is, entertainment. It's no guarantee, right? The work is seasonal and at times unreliable. So I was like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give myself a year, right? If I can get a paying gig within a year, then
Mm-hmm.
I will continue to pursue this. If not, then I have to go back to school and start doing something because I have no money. Um,
Yeah, sure.
so yeah, so that was kind of like the timeline for me, and I like worked very, very hard, but I also got pretty lucky in the people and the opportunities that found their way to me. And so I think, like, the first true inkling that this could be a real job, that I could succeed in, was when I was casting with leg day. And
Yep.
we used to do those scuffed ass bedroom casts. Actually, it was a kitchen cast for me. And we were doing like Nexus Cup and like Overwatch Team Story Chapter 4 and that kind of thing. And he got called up to do EU contenders. And I was like, right, like, this is a guy that we work together and I consider ourselves peers, and he got the call up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that means that it's possible for me too. I just have to keep working hard, try and make those connections and keep grinding, and it could be possible. That was like the first time where I saw somebody else like get tangible success and
Yep.
opportunity doing just what I was doing, right? So and then of course I got pretty lucky and also got called up to do NA contenders. So
Yeah, great. I mean, Leg Day, I've watched him a lot, and I didn't know that you guys were partners before. I
yeah,
mean, how long have you been with Boop as a duo? For maybe many months, right?
we've
I mean, I
we've
knew
been
you
together for
guys
about a year, I
together.
think. Yeah,
Yeah.
a little over
So
a year.
yeah, so I mean, when you guys got called up to contenders, I was like, "Yay! I know these guys." I mean, I've been there when they were nothing, and now they're famous. So it's a
Oh,
great experience, and I mean, this turning point of becoming pro is something that we all dream of, right?
hmm.
One day, I mean, back when I was in Londrina, another city I lived here in Brazil, I was like, man, I want to go to São Paulo, which is like these parts, most importantly, center of the country. And I was like, man, I really want to go to São Paulo. I really want to do that. I really want to be where these guys are. And then you get the call and you're like, okay, I have 2 weeks to move to another completely different city, like the largest one in Brazil. But I mean, let's go, let's do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a very, very good point, and that's a very important moment of our lives as casters, I believe. And talking about like partners and what you do specifically in casting, how
Mm-hmm.
do you define your role in casting? I mean, what is the main purpose of a caller? You're a caller caster, right? I'm not wrong on
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Okay, so what is the main
We're
purpose
like
of a
minds.
caller caster? Yeah, yeah, we're alike. So what's the main purpose of it? What do you do essentially?
Well, we're here to, maybe cover up for all the things that play-by-play misses. I'm just kidding. But well, so color casting, Doa actually calls it analysis casting,
All
which
right.
is a little bit more evocative of what I would say that we do, right? Or at least how I see my role in the duo. So play by play is like the meat of the sandwich, right? So like
Mm-hmm.
the fight is going on, what's happening, what's the most important thing that's happening, right? So like especially with goats, right? There's like 6 million ults going off all at the same time, but the play by
Yep.
play is the one who's going to be guiding the audience being like the shatter, hits 5, but it doesn't even matter. Transcendence immediately counters it and this grab, blah blah blah. So they're like
Mm-hmm.
you're like walking the viewer through it as it's happening. But for color, we're the ones who like kind of like after all of that, all of the shenanigans and the hullabaloo, right? We're like, okay, well, so that shatter was super important, and not just because like it drew the trans out, but now this means that they have a guaranteed free grab in the next fight. So we talk about how and why that's important. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like riding the line between summarizing and digesting what happened in that last fight and why that happened, and then setting up for the next fight. So given all of that information, what can we expect coming into this next fight? And I think like I actually didn't answer the earlier question, but like who are my casting idols?
Mm-hmm.
Somebody who definitely comes to mind, I'm so happy that he got the call up to Overwatch League, is Wolf. Wolf
Mm-hmm.
and Achilleos, I really enjoy their style, and in particular Wolf's style of color casting, because he always leads with his thesis, as in he always starts with just like that was a bad fight because they wasted the grab, for example, and
Mm-hmm.
then he'll go into like the details of like why this was, has this player done this before, what does this mean for like the next fight. And he can essentially, he's gotten to the point where like I've noticed multiple fights where he has predicted what is going to happen, and then it just plays out the way that he expected it to,
Yes.
which
Mm-hmm.
not only shows insane amount of like game knowledge and like history behind these players, and he's so familiar with them, but as a viewer it's like infinitely satisfying to just like to be able to follow his train of thought so clearly. Something that I still struggle with all the time is like leading with that statement, right? That thesis
Mm-hmm.
statement, like, hey,
Yep.
this is what happened, right? There's always like some crazy thing that happened, like, oh my god, I can't believe the Lucio got bashed mid sound barrier and blah, and that's like at the forefront of my mind. And a lot of
Yeah.
times like that kind of that thought will come out first before I actually get to this is like the meat of the equation. This is what
Especially
actually
in
happened.
Overwatch, because Overwatch is a very dynamic game, and you have
Uh-huh.
like 30 seconds at most to write a
Maybe,
thesis to tell it,
maybe. Yeah.
So I
So
mean, besides this role of color casted, and I'm actually surprised because that's very what we try to do here as well. I mean, it's very alike. So I believe we're on the good way, on the good
kindred
road,
spirit.
because yeah, because I mean, English casters, especially sports English casters or American casters, English speaking casters in this case, they are very old, much older than we are, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, they are much more experienced as well. And talking about this color cast and this, uh, let's say, this job of yours, and about Wolf's style and other casters' style, do you think you have your own casting style right now? And if so, what is it?
This is, I would say that I do have a style, although it is maybe we're all still growing. Okay,
Yep,
so
sure.
but I would call it, I would call it, I would call it dogs. Determinedly
Okay.
optimistic given the situation.
Okay, now that's a nice acronym.
Yes. So what I mean by that is like I always approach these fights not just in like, well, they did this wrong, they should have done this, like why did they do that, that was bad, right? I have noticed not just in Overwatch but in general, like color casters in particular have a tendency to be critical and at times like hypercritical of teams' actions and that kind of thing. But I personally enjoy hearing kind of like the more, you know, optimistic side where it's like, okay, well, that was a beefed fight. Like, obviously, you don't want to like treat the audience as stupid or as children and like not acknowledge that somebody made a mistake. But unless this mistake has like happened time and time again, just, you know, be like, hey, okay, that was like a bad fight and it's certainly going to be an uphill battle, but these are the things that they can do. And in fact, like we've seen some great EMPs from this Sombra before, right? If they're going to win this fight, this is what they need to do, rather than being like, this EMP is not going to do anything, like, you know, oh, I can't believe that they, you know, whiffed that grab, like this, so on and so forth. So I like to focus on the positives of what happened, because any team has the ability to win a fight and like, you know, take on an opponent even as the underdogs and come out the winner in this match. So I personally enjoy listening to that kind of casting, and so I think that's kind of the style that I try to propagate.
Yeah, and it's very interesting as well because on Overwatch Contenders Season 1, the first briefing meeting we had with the Blizzard responsible for the show, in that meeting he said, well, you guys are here to entertain, you guys are here to explain, you guys are here to bring emotion and all of that, but please focus on the positive aspects and on the positive sides of things. I don't know if you received that briefing as well, but we did, and actually that not only changed our casting, but that also changed our like vision of the world as well, because you can always look for the better things, for the brighter side, you know. But okay, sometimes it's kind of impossible not to mention what a player did wrong or what happened that was not supposed to happen. And I am one of the very like critic guys and the one who brings a lot of criticism as well, but always with respect, always saying, okay, they didn't do that, that was horrible, but at least they should try
straight
to do
dumpster
that and
fire,
that.
right?
Yeah, but I mean, they should try to do that now, or they only have this important ultimate to do something. And I think my casting style has also evolved to this style of not bringing always the bad aspects and the negative aspects. And it's funny to hear that, because I mean, Overwatch casting, for what I'm seeing right now, is more connected than I thought it were, from North America to South America. I mean, we guys are trying to go the same way and trying to do mostly the same things, and I think that's a huge evolution for us, especially which are the newest or the newer region. And also about style of casting, what do you think is the role of humor and all of that? I mean, do you think that entertainment needs humor? When is it okay to bring in some humor, and what kind of humor? Not or rather for the broadcast not to be a stand-up show, you know?
That's true. We gotta remember to stick to the games. You have come to the right spot. That's like asking, you know, Tiger Woods what his favorite golf ball brand is. Like, okay. I am all about trying to interject humor and entertainment into the cast, sometimes to the detriment. So that is true. You have to ride that line. But for me, I think like the biggest, I think there's always room for jokes. I think that your cast should be fun, right? If it's not fun, I'm already immediately demotivated and don't really want to keep hearing, because especially given this recent meta, which has, you know, dragged on for quite some time, we've seen the same thing for a very long time. You've seen grab bomb combos, we've seen shatter bomb combos, we've seen Zen's missing trans, we've seen everything at this point. So where are you adding value to your cast? Right? Why would somebody listen to you cast rather than just watching the game with it muted? Right? So that's where I think, you know, humor and entertainment come in, right? You've heard casters say fatty shatty like a zillion times, but you could come up with like new ways to talk about earth shatters, a massive ground pound, or what have you. And you can break into song. I definitely break into song too often. And I think just personally, if I decide to like tell a joke, it's going to be because what we saw was probably something that we've already talked about, or that, maybe a ton of stuff didn't actually happen in that fight. They went in, they used their ults poorly and lost the fight. Okay, there's not too much to break down. So this is a great place to just throw in a joke, or like, talk about a player's history or that kind of thing. So I think one of the biggest compliments that I've ever been given in regards to my casting was someone saying that they enjoyed me and Boop's style because it sounded like you were just on the couch with like your two best buds, like watching Overwatch together, and you were just talking about the game.
Nice.
And that kind of casual, like relaxed feel, like, yeah, we're still covering the material of, what's happening on screen, but it's, just more laid back, right? It's easygoing. There's like jokes. People are, having a good time. It's fun.
Yeah, right. I think that's also what we'll try to pursue here in Brazil, especially because I don't know if I can say that, but South American casting in general is much more emotional. I mean, it has a lot of passion involved because viewers want that. So if we don't like scream sometimes or yell sometimes, people are going to be like, okay, so that was maybe a terrible fight, right? Because they're not screaming. And maybe that fight was like the game-winning fight, So we have to adapt to that. But we also have to adapt to humor, to joking in general. I mean, maybe not. I mean, every caster here has a style, so some of them will go into bad jokes on purpose, those bad puns and all. And
cringe, haha.
Yeah, exactly. Cringe, haha, forehead. That's the reaction. Some of us will try and go for references. Some of us will try and go for singing. Some of us will try and go for whatever it is, whatever it takes to entertain. And I asked you this because for me, it always seemed that North American casting was much more about seriousness and explaining the game and having a whole thesis and all of that. But I mean, Overwatch League right now has a lot of fun in it, right? Especially on the analysis parts, when you have the analysts just covering things. Most of the times they're having fun. They're making fun of each other. They're having this contact with each other, and that's something we are trying to bring to both Overwatch League Portuguese broadcast and also Overwatch Contenders South American broadcast. And I think that's the correct path. And we're talking about like compliments and maybe haters as well. We all have them. They're very present in our lives, right? So how do you deal with feedbacks, both positive and negative ones?
This is this is like the ultimate question, right? Like, how do you know if what somebody's telling you is true? You suck. Well, I don't think I suck, right? So
says the guy with a Naruto profile image or whatever.
He's running. But it's super hard, and that was probably also something that I struggled with when I was first starting out, is like kind of figuring out like, hey, is this feedback of any kind valid, right? Like, oh man, you're the greatest like caster in the universe. You're like so good. Like you're the best caster ever. I'm like, really? I don't think so. Like, so it's eventually, I think you just have to kind of use your own judgment. Like self-VOD review is probably the most helpful and also most painful tool that you have to kind of just objectively look at yourself and your product, right?
Sure.
So Reddit's always going to be salty, like, but you always have fans, so there'll always be like the two sides who are like telling you different things, right? Because I remember so a lot of times when like we're casting, I'll see something happen or there's like a big shatter and I can't help myself. I'll be like, right? And I'll react. And I got a comment. Somebody was like, it's so funny when Ham like makes all these exclamations and stuff because you can tell that she's so excited by what's happening on screen. I love it. It's funny, right? And then another person said literally the opposite. this woman is so annoying when she grunts and like yells and screams. Like, I can't believe that she would do something that sounds so ugly.
Oh my
Right.
God.
And I was like, well, thank you. Like, mission accomplished. But
Yeah.
yeah, you just have to kind of then you can either go to like, somebody that you really respect and be like, hey, I was wondering what you think about exclamations while your partner is casting. Is that appropriate? Do you think that that's good or bad? Right.
Yes.
Or you can just like look back at your VOD, which is kind of what I did. And I was like, maybe it's a lot of grunting. Maybe I'll grunt a little less.
Yeah,
Right. But
exactly.
occasionally I'll still do it because it's worth it. Right. So you can, I think, especially at this point where we're professionals and we, cast games and hold ourselves to that standard, you kind of get a feeling for what feedback is valid and what feedback is not valid. But I think if you truly don't know, and this is actually what I would recommend in general, is just to like reach out to other casters, right?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be like one of the owl guys. It can be just like a peer, like, hey, what do you think about this? Just give it to me straight, man. Like, do I grunt too much?
Yep.
Yeah, maybe it's a little bit of too much grunting. Like maybe just cool it, right? And
Mm-hmm.
and that will give you very valuable, just it'll give you very valuable advice, right? So you just
Sure.
take all of these data points and eventually nobody but you can decide whether or not that this is something that you want to continue or not.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, being a woman, what happens here in Brazil, for example, with Anna, and what happens to a lot of other women as well,
Mm-hmm.
there's always a lot of people saying or trying to compliment her and them for their jobs and for their casting and for their analysis and all. But people usually will go, oh, you're so beautiful, oh, you're so cute, oh, you're just the best of the world. And like, I've already talked to them, and most of the times they're like, man, I mean, thank you for saying that I am beautiful. Beautiful. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, that's good. Thank you so much. But I am kind of working here, so
Yeah, I
that's
have
not
a
my main
job.
focus point, you know. So does it usually happens to you as well, or I mean, how is it in America? Do people at least try to compliment you on your actual job instead of your face?
I don't know. I mean, so I'm like both lucky and unlucky, I would say. Well,
Hmm.
not necessarily, but like the kind of feedback that I often get is usually not actually based on my looks because I try and because of that reason where women is generally like, oh my God, she's like so pretty. Like you should like host like a COD or, or something like that. And it's not
Yeah.
actually focusing on your skill, right? Which is great. There are so many amazing, beautiful women out there, but we
Hmm.
should be evaluated at some point on our merit and our ability to do our jobs. I actually don't receive a ton of those kinds of comments on my appearance because I purposefully try and like downplay that aspect. And because of that, I think like the negative comments about just like how stupid I am and how like dumb and like, unqualified and horrible and my voice is or my like I can't believe she just said like that thing, it's so obvious, blah, uh,
Hmm.
that those kind of comments come through more, which actually always, it's you try not to, but it does get to me because it's actually
Yeah.
about like what I'm trying to do and be good at, right? It would be like it's actually very substantive talking about my actual skills, so it's a give and take. Right.
Yeah. Sure. Sure. For sure. And I think that it should happen, or it does happen in every broadcast. I mean, people not only with women, maybe with men as well. People are
Hmm.
complimenting casters on their like beauty, on their faces, on their looks,
Oh
instead
yeah.
of on their jobs. So if you're listening to this, please try and compliment people on their skills as well. I mean, do not stop saying that people are pretty. That's okay. That's actually cool if you are not abusing that. But try and compliment people as well on their skills, because at least for me, that what gets more. I mean, that what I read and like to read. You know, that's when I go like, okay, so this guy knows that I am trying to make an analysis the best I can, or that I'm trying to do that, or that I'm not trying to do that or that I'm not being able to do. So these kind of feedbacks are my preferred ones, and I believe that's more important than, oh, you look good tonight, or you look bad tonight, or whatever the hell you were wearing is not
You do look very
supposed to be
good tonight,
there.
Tonello.
Oh, thank you. We're not even seeing me, but that's
I
okay.
can't see you, but I can feel the vibes. Every time I've ever seen you, you've always been very well dressed, very well
Oh,
put
thank you.
together.
Thank you so much. The
Yeah.
suspenders help, I think.
Do you snap them like?
No, not all times. Only for photos. I mean, I'm a person of moments, right? So, what are the most important skills a caster should have or develop? Because we're talking about styles, we're talking about feedback, but with all of these in mind, we tend to get better at something. We tend to get better at what we do. So, in your opinion, what are the most important skills for you that you try to develop and that you try to bring to the table?
Okay. So I would say number one is to cast with confidence, to cast
All
with
right.
intent, right? So basically, as casters, we're like coming at the game from a position of authority, right? Like this is like if you're play by play as you're casting the fight, it's like this is what's important. Pay attention to these things as I'm calling them out, right? And as a color caster, you're basically telling the audience like these things were important, just believe me, right?
Yeah.
And in order for that message to come across, or for just for the viewing experience to feel fluid and comfortable, you have to believe that the commentators have the authority and have that knowledge. And a big part of that obviously is having that knowledge and
Mm-hmm.
being right,
Sure.
but another big part is just seeming like you're right. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Yep.
So if you could say the same exact words in the same way, but if you just the tone and your delivery will add so much to what comes across to the audience. So for example, if you said like that shatter was the shatter of the century, that's insane, I can't believe that he was able to pull that off, right? So that
Mm-hmm.
kind of tone versus like that shatter it was like the shatter of the century, I guess he was able to pull that off. And you don't sound confident, right? Or you sound like you're not 100% sure that you're trying to like come up with the words as you're saying it, and
Mm-hmm.
that makes it so people will doubt what you're saying, and it's harder for them to just enjoy the game because they have
Yeah.
that doubt in the back of their mind, right? So I think the casting with intent is number one important, because it will also give you the confidence, right, to throw out a
Mm-hmm.
really terrible joke. And
Yep.
if you deliver it with confidence, hey, it was funny, right? But if you don't even think that that joke was funny, and nobody's going to think that the joke is funny. So I think that's
Sure.
probably like one of the top most important skills for casters just in general. And the second one is kind of a cop out, but I also believe very strongly in it, which is the ability to take feedback, right?
Okay.
So we were talking about how can you tell if this feedback is valid, but just the ability to be like, to step back and be like, hey, I don't want to hear it, but I think you might have a point. I grunt too much, right? Just
Yeah.
the ability to kind of like take your ego down a notch and consider all of these viewpoints without outright dismissing them. Because it's already hard enough to like cast with like, your partner and everything. You're kind of in a vacuum. And it's very valuable, even if it's not from like a direct source of authority. If your viewers think that your voice sounds too nasally or something like that, then
Mm-hmm.
just consider it, right? It doesn't mean that you have to change it, but be like, is my voice too nasally? Because if people are commenting on it, it must be affecting their viewing experience. And
Mm-hmm.
if it's a big enough deal, then maybe I can do something about it, right?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, understanding feedback, I believe I'd call it, is very important. And sometimes it is hard as hell because sometimes we're like spending months on one style or on one certain point, and we're like, okay, so my jokers are the best, and
Of
I'm the
course.
stand-up comedian of the team, so let's always use these jokers. And then a lot of people will go into chat and say, oh, maybe his jokers are not the best, maybe I don't like him, or maybe he jokers or he tries to make too many jokes and
Mm-hmm.
like just kick this guy out of there. And I know that may be not true or not true for everyone, but as I said, try to consider it, right? Try and see exactly if that's good. Ask someone you trust, ask a partner, ask your superior, I don't know, ask someone that really can give you feedback, valid feedback on what's going on. And also, I believe we all, I don't know how you do call it in English, but we all in Brazil, or I believe also you guys in America, have these specific things, words like sentences and all, to say when you do not know what the fuck to say, right? I mean, we all have those.
Yeah, they're
we
like
all have those. So
they're like crutch phrases, right?
Yeah, they've gone to the high ground, and so they got an advantage to try and get all of these kills, and that's why they won the fight. And you're saying pretty much like nothing, but you're saying something, but you're saying like nothing, and we all have those. So having the skill to say these things, to use those lines, and also look that you know what you're talking about, even though you haven't seen anything that's happened before, especially on Overwatch, which is a highly dynamic game. I think that's very important as well. And what is your preparation? I mean, how is your usual preparation? What do you do in terms of warming up your voice, in terms of warming up your mindset? I mean, how does it work for you?
Well, I always do a full crossword puzzle and then drink a dozen eggs before each cast, just to like get pumped up. Right? No, I'm just kidding. That would be crazy though. Like I guess my preparation all revolves around just like I'm so boring, Tonello. Like it's just. All I do to prep is like make sure that the day beforehand I know what games I'm casting, and and that I actually do have a spreadsheet. So I list the teams, I list their records, I list the map type win percentages compared to each other, and then I go with my partner and go through being like, what do you think the identity of this team is, right? So we're, say for example, Sky Foxes is a very solid goats team with an incredible pocket sombra from Buds. That's their identity, right? And then we do that for both of the teams in that match, and then we take that and craft a storyline. So what's the narrative? When we see them fight, what do we think is going to happen? Who do we want to keep an eye on? Like if, like say for example with Sky Foxes, like if the sombra doesn't work, will their goats work against Atlanta Academy, right? And we just draw out kind of this world or this story, right? So we at least have a framework to judge what we see in game. But honestly, though, the rest of the preparation is just making sure that you have enough sleep, right? You have some like water or some kind of beverage ready, so to like drink in between. And actually, another big part of it is like I can't. Even if I wanted to, I wouldn't be able to like drink a dozen eggs before cast because like of like stomach issues. I used to drink coffee like every morning. Every time before cast, I would have a cup of coffee. And then when I turned to Boop and would like talk to him, I would spray my coffee breath all over him and it would like smell really bad. And two, I would have to pee constantly throughout the broadcast, right? Because coffee is a diuretic and just makes you pee. And so I was like, I just like gotta like take better care of my body, right? Isn't that such a weird thing to think about, because we're just sitting here yelling over video games, but making sure that like you can be concentrating 100% on casting and like picking up all of those tiny details and that kind of thing and not thinking about holding your poop. It's very important. So just don't like, because there were definitely times when like the night beforehand, John, Boop's husband, would make his famous ass blaster tacos, or we would eat some very, very spicy food. And in the morning, it's like a mad rush to the bathroom and you try and just like eliminate everything before you get on camera, because like, watch this. Like, I just know I'm going to have to poop in the middle of Hanamura and it's going to be bad, right? So you do have to like prepare, a little bit beforehand, but nothing crazy.
Yeah, and actually, I don't know if you knew that, but coffee, it dries up your vocal cords as well. So it's not really that good. But for example, Neves in Brazil, he really enjoys coffee and he tends to drink a cup of coffee before the casting starts. Other casters do that as well. I mean, if your body can handle it, no problem. That's on you. But if you cannot, please don't be like stubborn to try and do that again and again and again. And poop in the middle of the game. And actually, there is a famous story here in Brazil. It wasn't with any Overwatch caster. It happened to CS:GO casters, and they were like, there was an audio issue, and in the middle of a game, like in the break of a game, one of the casters said to the other, "Oh man, I really want to go. Like, I really have to poop. Like, I really want to go poop," and it actually went on to the broadcast, and everyone in chat was like,
It's hot, Mike.
"Oh, just go, man. Just please go. Just please go. We're here. We can hold it. I mean, just go, man. We are with you. Just go. Do it.
You can do it. Just go."
Yeah. And so that became very famous, and that became an inside joke here for the casters in Brazil. And do you have any superstitions when casting or before casting? I don't even know if that's the right word, superstition. I think that is the one, but
Yeah, it's like baseball players who will always like wear the same shoes or like
exactly
mitt or that kind of thing. I don't have any superstitions. Maybe it's because I've only been doing this for like 2 years or something. I haven't developed one just yet. Oh, actually, I do kind of have a superstition, but it's stupid.
No problem. All superstitions, I think, are right.
At a baseline, they're all dumb, but you still believe it. So I would, so I think part of it is because it actually helps, and another part of it is because I think that since I've taken, so like there's an allergy medicine that will help keep your mucus production down, so you don't get a lot of mucus, and I clear my throat a lot. Look at that. And and so I would religiously like always take this allergy medicine before casting, and like every time I took it I was like, oh, I have no problems with like clearing my throat. And then once I wouldn't take it, I'm like, every time I cleared my throat I would like super duper notice it and be like, oh my god, this is because I didn't take like the allergy med, right? But in all honesty, I don't think it actually has that big of an impact in it. It's just like when I don't take it, I like become super self-conscious of like all the times that I clear my throat, and I feel like I need to do it more often. So that's kind of like a ritual that I do.
Yeah, I think that is considered as a superstition. I mean, I don't know this medicine in specifically, but all I know is that clearing your throat, independently of the way you do that, is not like that good, because it.
No,
I mean,
you're not.
Some people say that in long term it will maybe damage your vocal cords or anything like that, but also, I mean, I've seen lots of singers, lots of casters do that all the time, so maybe the body, like maybe the bodies are different, the biology of everyone is kind of different, so I don't know exactly.
I'm just particularly boogery, I guess.
Not that, but for example, in my case, I really, really have no like stamina in terms of vocal cords and in terms of voice. So I mean, if I cast like 3 games in a row, probably, I mean, I won't be voiceless, but I'll have to stop speaking immediately for quite a long time, because I don't really have a lot of like resistance, on vocal cords, and that's on me. So that's why I don't drink coffee. That's why I have to sleep so much to be able to do a good casting, because if I don't do that, I will be completely messy and confused about what's going on, and I won't be able to keep the focus on point. So I mean, I wouldn't say I have other superstitions, but I really rely a lot on preparation, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to do what I do. I really have these focus and attention issues. I don't know if that's that needs a medicine or whatever, but that's what I have. And
if it's manageable without meds, right? Hey, you're doing a good job.
Exactly. And I mean, you've been casting for 2 years right now, maybe 3 years.
Yeah, about 2, going on 3.
Okay, so 2 and something years. And for you, what was the most important game of your career so far?
Ooh, that's a hard one. Sure. And I don't know. I got one. I got a real one, and then I got like a sentimental, mushy one. But so the real game that I think was, I wouldn't necessarily say that I've had yet the most important game in terms of like, I feel like I really peaked as a caster. I was like hitting all the right notes. I was doing everything perfect. But I did really enjoy calling the Bermuda Uprising Academy game in like week 6 or something of NA Contenders, because that was the first time Bermuda had won a series. They had
Nice.
never won before. And to be able to kind of like be there backing them, trying to, you know, like encourage them, you know, even though they can't hear us, but like encourage them and just like see them able to finally succeed and win a single match was like just like made me feel so good. And I was so pumped and excited afterwards that, you know, we were able to witness, you know, a small historical moment for this team,
for sure.
right? But in terms of like the sentimental, I do have a sentimental cast. The most important cast of my life was when I casted with Boop for the first time.
Okay.
I know,
All right.
it's bad. But yeah, so we met in Colorado with Carbon Entertainment back in the day, and I had cold called Wawa's boot camp because I was trolling all the servers looking for tournaments to cast. And I saw that they were doing one and was like, hey, you want a caster? I cast, you know, Overwatch. My name's Ham. And they were like, oh, no.
Thank you
We don't
so
want
much,
you.
but not today.
Yeah, we already have a casting pair. And so I was like, oh, that's totally fine, but I do observing too. I'll be an in-game observer for you if you need. And they were like, okay, well, we'll, you know, take a look at it and everything and see if we add you to the team. But you know who the casting duo was Boop and Alex Gilfrost, who I had met at DreamHack Denver. And he was like, hey, wait, you know, this Ham girl, she's cool. Like, I know her, like, just bring her on. We'll just like, it doesn't have to be just me and Boop. Like, we'll just trade off, right? He is such a good person still to this day, like one of the most genuine humans that I've ever met, who just does good because that's just who he is, right? And and so that was the Wawa's Boot Camp Amateur Rising 2 was the first cast that I ever did with Boop. And that day he was like, it was like meeting my husband. We just got along so well. And from that point on, he was like, why would I cast with anybody else? We've just been partners ever since that time. And so if you pressed me, I would say that's my most important cast.
All right. So I mean, and you guys, I mean, actually, after you, I'm gonna send a message to Boop and try to have him here as well for us to have the same talk, the same chat. But you guys seem to work so well together. I mean, your sense of humor seems to be practically the same, or you guys, I mean,
I like
talking
butt jokes
to you
a lot
guys,
more than Boop, but, yeah.
I mean, you guys seem to really get along well, and that's important. That's huge for the synergy. That's huge for the coordination of the casting duo as well. And yeah, I mean, Boop, we want you here, all right? We really,
Boop. Why aren't you here?
You are not leaving us. You're not skipping this Profissão Caster. So please come by anytime. And okay, totally fair. That's totally fair. And now you told us about the most important game of your life, of your career at least. But what was the funniest moment of your career so far? I mean, maybe there were many of them, but
there's definitely several that come to mind. One of them was just like, Boop and I were actually talking about this just the other day, and you know, must just be the mental synergy. I mean, we live together essentially, and he calls me his work wife. So so you know, but it was Hanamura casting. We were casting Second Wind last season, Hanamura, and I forgot who they were playing. It doesn't matter. But they were getting their asses beat. And it was like desperation stall time. The Tracer comes out. She dies, right? The Doomfist comes out. He dies, right? The Mei comes out. She dies. And so like Second Wind, we're like barely able to trickle people onto the point. And we were like, this overtime is still going on. Like, what's going on? Who's stalling this point out? And we slowly see the observers pan upward towards the ceiling. And there is Akawa, main tank, hanging from the ceiling as Hammond, just above the heads of the opponents, and they're like, what? And he's just like, you don't see me. I'm
Yeah,
not moving. Like, I'm
I
not here,
remember this
right?
game. You were the ones casting it. I didn't know you
Yeah.
were the ones casting it. I just saw like the video, like muted video on Twitter. Man, that was
Hmm.
crazy.
Yeah, no, it was us. Boop was like, Akawa, a massive miracle, stall. And I was like, yeah, Akawa, I guess he just decided to cosplay some mistletoe hanging from the ceiling. Nobody knew where he was. And that was an incredible moment. I can't believe that he got away with it for so long and we were able to make that call. Um, Another really funny moment was Neist on Farah, on Nimbani, was
Mhm.
killing it with these rockets, got the barrage, and it was kind of one of those moments. It was like an Agility's blade kind of moment where
Yeah,
like it wasn't planned, but he was like, I see an opportunity. I'm gonna try and make something of it. And he
sure.
drops down and he barrages the street on Nimbani first, but he turns around and hits the street sign. And
Oh,
it reflects all the rockets. It's like justice razor, blah! And then immediately died. And Boop had a brilliant call. He was like, who knew that the street signs of Nimbani were made of such strong stuff, right? Able to withstand an entire rocket barrage, whereas, a Reinhardt in his like 800-pound armor just dies.
yeah,
Who knew?
exactly.
The
Yeah,
infrastructure builders, they need a raise.
and they cannot,
Doing something right.
and they cannot fix the airport, right? The airport is still not fixed, right? So what the heck is going on,
Just
Numbani?
slacking,
Please
man.
help
Just
me help
slacking.
you. Help me help you, Numbani. Please, please.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and I think that's one of the characteristics that make our profession so great because we
Hmm.
have emotional moments, we have funny moments, we have stressful moments, we have
Oh yeah.
a lot of tiring moments as well, boring moments as well. Like we have all of these things, and we have to be able to deal with all of them and always show something good to the camera, always show something valid to the
Hmm.
viewership, so that they keep entertained, so that they are liking and really enjoying what they're watching
Exactly.
at the moment. And what
You
do you
always
want to
got
achieve? What?
to
Sorry.
because the viewers are the ones looking at you being like, what's next? Was that funny?
Yep.
Was that bad? Was that good? Right? And you can add a lot just by like reflecting those emotions and screaming or what have you. I'm
Or
actually super
grunting.
curious. Now I suddenly thought back to when you were like, oh well, I get super vocally tired after 3 hours, and I'm like the
Yep.
same. But what was like the longest cast that you've ever done?
Okay, so it wasn't like the longest casting, but it
Mm-hmm.
was like the most tiring one back
Mm.
on Overwatch World Cup 2017, I think, because there were only three of us casters to cover the whole qualifiers, like all the gamers. It was only me, Veset, and Peter. So I'm working
Wow.
nowadays with them both as well, but and Peter and Veset are play-by-play casters. I was the only
Hmm.
color caster at the time. So we were like, how do we do this? How do we adapt? And the most tiring moment of my career, I think, was at that time because it was like a Saturday or Sunday or Friday, I don't remember well. But I had a show because I'm also a musician, and I used to play with like a
So
band
talented.
before. Oh, thank you. And I was already tired for playing because of playing with that band, because of singing in that band.
Hmm.
So my voice was already tired, and I still had to like sleep 3 hours and wake up in the middle of the night to go
Oh.
and cast one game and then sleep again 1 hour and go in again for another game. We were like change or exchanging, like switching roles and switching the duos every time to cover the whole Overwatch World Cup, because if we didn't cover and if we didn't broadcast every game, we weren't allowed to only cast the Brazilian games, the Team Brazil's games. So we had
Oh,
to do
okay.
them all. And for three
Gotta do
people
them
only,
all.
like, yeah, for three people only in the middle of the night, always like everyone tired. I remember I got voiceless. My voice just went off to take a walk, and I was like in a very, very, very bass pitch, like a low pitch, and
You
I
got
was
that gravelly
speaking.
Barry White going.
Yes, because I just didn't have my high pitches anymore, my high registers anymore. So I had to
Uh-huh.
adapt my voice to speak in a lower pitch. And my voice actually sounded better at the lower pitch than it sounds right now. But I wasn't able to express much emotion because I was like, whoa, what a nice chatter, you know. That was just insanely bad, but I had to be there. I had to explain something. So that was for me the time, the moment, the situation that I got the most tired. And I mean, I think that in the beginning we all get these 6, 7, 8, 10, 12 hours straight casts, right? And I think that's something that we all have to go through in order actually to build stamina, to build resistance, to actually be able to cast for a lot of time. Because you guys at Contenders, I mean, you cast for like what, 4 hours, 5 hours? Okay, you were a team, but maybe that's the time you are on camera, right?
Yeah, we switch off. We're like AABB, so we do 4 hours per pair. But that's so funny, dude. So like, I haven't seen this episode, but there's an episode of Friends where Phoebe gets sick, and her voice becomes really low because she's sick and has like a gravelly voice, and she thinks it sounds so good that she tries to keep herself sick so that her voice will be really low and she'll sound like sultry and stuff. And that really reminded me of what you were just saying there. That's funny.
I mean, I didn't get that reference because I've never watched Friends. Sorry, I've never watched Friends.
How could you?
Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's.
I already watched the whole How I Met Your Mother series, but not Friends.
Oh yeah.
And I
haven't watched that one at all. So.
Yeah, you see, there's this like rivalry between them two, but I think there is. People say that How I Met Your Mother was a copy of Friends, and I don't know if you're being sarcastic right now, but if you were, sorry, I didn't catch that. So,
I don't know, because I actually have never watched either show. Like,
okay, all right.
I just know of this episode. Yeah.
All right, and as a professional caster right now, not a biologist anymore, what do you want to achieve as a caster? I mean, what are your goals? Where do you want to get to as a professional caster?
Well, the dream is always going to be to cast for Owl. Man, what a dream. I like that would be like a fulfillment of all of like the grinding and like the work and everything that I've put into up until this point. I think that would probably be the dream for any Overwatch caster, right? You got there first, but it's okay. But yeah, so that's kind of what I hope to achieve. But I suppose in general, speaking very broadly, because I don't think we can ever assume that Overwatch will be forever, or that League will be forever, or StarCraft will be forever, because esports come and go. But my overarching goal is just to be able to support myself, whatever games that I'm casting, and just feel satisfied. Like it's kind of a cop out, but like feel satisfied with what I've done myself and like where I've gotten myself to in whatever titles that I'm covering. And right now, like it's being able to cast Contenders is such a privilege. It's tons of fun, and I work very hard to try and do that. But of course, you're always like eyeing like the next goal, which is like what's the next level. So for me, like the dream is absolutely just to work in Overwatch League in, whatever capacity. Hey, you need somebody else to be a professional clown on the desk? This one, right? If you need another host, call me. But basically, like I think that the OWL product is like super good, and I would just want to like be involved in some capacity, right? So.
Sure. I mean, here in Brazil was a privilege for us to be able to cast Overwatch League. I mean, to be able to bring the emotions of the Overwatch League to our language, like to our idiom. Not idiom. Idiom has a different meaning in your language, but anyways, I always get confused on when trying to speak Portuguese and English, because words, they get confused in my mind. But anyways, I think
words.
that's a
what are they?
I think that's a second language issue, but I mean, it's always been it has been a pleasure to bring Overwatch League to Portuguese and to actually explain what Overwatch League is to our fans, because like many people didn't really have the habit to watch it because it wasn't something good for them. It wasn't their casting style. Maybe some people were able to understand English. Some people were able to watch it with the English broadcast and all, with the English casting, but they weren't really like feeling it, because they were like, oh man, these guys maybe are not that emotional, their jokes are not fun. I don't know, they were like, man, this is
There's
not
the
us.
cross-cultural,
Yeah.
difficulties, right? Because
Yeah.
like even if you're speaking the same language, again, like the tone, the expectations, the intonations are all different from what you expect or what you're used to.
Exactly. So for us, it's a huge privilege, and we are very, very happy to do so. But I mean, I'd also like to maybe expand more. I'd like to cast in English if I could practice my English to the point of casting it, because it's completely different from only speaking. Like, but maybe, who knows? I mean,
Right?
we have a long road ahead of us, and I think that's gonna be. I mean, uh, being able to provide, for us, that's okay, that's the job. I mean, being able to eat based on
Eating.
on casting,
One of the
that's
pure
the
joys of life, right?
yeah, that's the main point, that's the main objective, but the rest that comes with it is also very welcome. And
Hmm.
now, before we do the who said what game that I've already talked to you, I'd like you to predict who you'll be 1 year, like, from today. So this like prediction will be tweeted to you after exactly 1 year of this interview, and probably I won't remember that this tweeted existed. You probably won't remember that tweeted
Hmm.
existed. But
I won't probably.
yeah, but like, who are you gonna be in 1 year? Where do you imagine yourself in 1 year,
Hmm.
or how do you imagine yourself in 1 year?
Yeah. So I imagine myself in, a pink gown, surrounded by dogs and like drinking from a glass of wine, just like super rich, successful, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's hard to say. I would geez. I mean, okay, I would hope to be still involved in casting Overwatch. That's a
All
safe
right.
bet.
Good. That's a safe one. That's a
Well,
safe
yeah.
one.
So I think it's very very difficult to say like in what capacity or where I'll be casting necessarily because um again like we don't know. There's a lot of unknowns and it's going to be hard to just predict because you can only control what you do. But I'll say I'll hope to be involved in Overwatch League in some capacity.
All right. So, do you
That's going to
think
be it.
you're still going to be casting with Boop?
Oh, that's a tough one. Don't make me think about leaving Boop Tonello. You're gonna
Yeah,
make
and
me
then 1 year later, you're like, oh my God, Boop. So many memories. Like,
Boop, we
I
barely
hope
knew.
not. I hope
Right?
not. I hope it.
Like
I hope it. I hope it doesn't happen. But do you see yourself casting with him 1 year, like, from today?
if I had control of it, absolutely. I would want to continue to work with Boop.
Yep.
But like again, in terms of just the scene, it's very hard to predict. But if I had control, I would cast with Boop forever.
All right.
I,
All
I
right.
I genuinely enjoy not only working with him professionally, but enjoying his friendship and his humor and everything that he brings to my life. So
All right. So, and how do you see yourself? Do you see yourself with long hair still, or short hair,
uh,
or I
maybe we'll
mean,
have to go about like something. Do you think I would look good with short hair?
so like, how do you see yourself? Because if you get this correctly, absolutely nothing will change. But you have a good laugh, so yeah.
That's a good way of putting it. Well, that's a good question. I mean, I would hope to keep my long hair. I'm actually suffering from a bit of hair loss, so who knows? Maybe I'll be bald and I'll just like wear a wig or like a hat or something. I could wear a hat like you. I'll just be
Okay.
like a newspaper boy or something. But hopefully I'll be more fit. That'll be nice, right? It should be like, "Meh," and then if casting doesn't work out, then I'll just become a personal trainer.
Okay.
I don't know.
Fair.
I don't
That's
know.
fair.
But yeah, so
Okay, so that's
well,
fair.
what
So
about
that.
you? You
Oh, I
you have
don't
to answer the
know.
question too. I'm very curious.
Okay, so I still see myself casting Overwatch as well.
Hmm.
I still see myself working in Brazil still, but maybe, who knows, doing something in English.
Come to
And
the States.
also, I really, really, really want to be able in 1 year to speak more Korean than I do currently, because
Oh, that's good.
I've been studying Korean, but my Korean is still 안녕하세요, and that's all. It's just like hello, how are you? My name is Tonello, and where's the McDonald's? And that basically.
Not
So
the Kentucky Fried Chicken. Korean chicken with fried chicken is so good.
I mean, I won't starve, right? If I ever go to Korea, I won't die of starvation, but I'd like to talk more and even like have interviews with Korean players. Who knows?
Hmm.
And I think those are the main points of it.
Oh, those are
I don't
good
really know
goals,
the
man.
rest. Yeah, I don't really know the rest, but I mean, what it comes, I'll just embrace it and let's go. Let's look at the positive aspects of everything, and that's
Go
great.
with the flow. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Go with the flow. And now the game, the who said what game.
Okay.
Basically, I've already explained it to you, but let's explain it to the viewership. Basically, what we're going to do here is that she's gonna try to guess. Ham's gonna try to guess who said
Heavy
what.
emphasis on try.
Yeah, heavy emphasis on try, but I'll get that good. I mean, so I've put together 6 sentences, 6 phrases that
Uh-huh.
we casters from the Overwatch League and Overwatch Contenders South American team say a lot. Our like personal signature phrases and all, and or some of them at least. And there's
Okay.
one phrase for each caster. So 6 phrases, 6 casters. Obviously, I won't put it. I won't like play or record like an audio for you because that way it would be so easy to find or to guess which one is mine and which one is Anna's, right? Because
There
that's
is some difference, some small.
yeah. Maybe some small differences on pitch. I don't know. But I'll try really hard to in person who says this, and I'll fail
Okay.
miserably. But
All right.
just so you get an idea, and then if you want, I can send you like audios of them saying those phrases. So I sent you a link with
Okay.
our pictures, with who we are.
Lovely. Everybody's
Alright?
beautiful.
Yeah, so the team is I cast with Nevis, he's my play-by-play caster. Anna's casting with Pater, which is her play-by-play caster, and Vesech is casting with Demo. So Vesech is a
Okay.
play-by-play and Demo is a color caster. All right,
Mhm.
this is the setup. And the first phrase, I'll really mess this up, and the person who says this will be mad at me, but I'll try it in person. I mean, the best I
Can't
can.
wait.
He says, Algulira, corre! Who says that?
Okay. Oh, that's
But I mean, imagine this sentence, this phrase, this in person, but with a little more drive to it, like yeah. But I cannot do drives because my throat just wants to kill
Okay.
itself when I have a drive on my voice.
okay. Am I allowed to know what that means?
Yeah, for sure. Actually,
Okay, what does it mean?
if you want, let me send you the sentences. There's no problem with that. So I just let me see where I can send you this. I don't know if I can do this through the Discord because my Discord is just so messy right now. Okay, I can. So I sent you the sentences
Okay.
so
Oh.
you will feel more at home. So this first one is the Algulira, corre, and it means look at the
Corre.
ape, run away from it.
I like it.
But there's a pun there because the correct word is gorilla, not golira. So the person
Ah.
says it wrongly on purpose.
Wrong but purposeful. Okay, I got you. If it's a gravelly tone, I feel like is that Visech?
I don't know. I won't reveal it to you just at the end of everything.
Oh, I have to guess all of them?
Yeah, because otherwise you'll have logic on your side. So if it's not Visage, it's the other one. You do that.
Oh, it's only one for each person?
Yeah, only one for each person.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, I'll keep that in my head then. Okay.
So
What's the
first
next
one, Visage, your choice.
Yes.
Okay, so next one, also imagine a drive. It goes like, não vai dar, não vai dar.
No vai da.
Yeah,
What does that mean?
It means like it's not gonna happen. It's not gonna be possible.
Dead on arrival.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's like predictive, kind of like that's not gonna work. So seems like it might be a color caster, right? Because we're all seeing and all knowing. No, I die. Okay, wait. Actually, can you go through all of them first, and then I'll just hear all of them, and then I'll go.
Sure. All right. So next one, it goes more or less like this. Nossa, chega a dar siricutico.
Can you
And
say
it
it again?
means, wow, it even gives me siricutico. And siricutico has no damn translation. It's like something, you feel like a chill on your spine, something like that,
Oh,
you know?
okay.
And it goes like, nossa, chega a dar até siricutico.
Interesting. It
All
gives
right?
me chills. Okay.
Yeah, something
All right.
like that. So
Okay.
next one is, a execução da jogada foi perfeita. And it means like, the play's execution was perfect.
Oh. Huh, this one's hard because it could be play-by-play or color. Can you say it again?
A execução da jogada foi perfeita.
Ah, okay. All right. I'm trying to, be in the zone and imagine this, Tonello.
Yeah,
Okay. All right.
sure. So next one, it goes like, mais uma vez o Carpe fazendo carpices.
Carpe.
Yeah, it has to do with carpe, and it
Uh-huh.
means once
Is it
again
carpe take my water?
carpe. No, it's like once again carpe is doing carpe things, carpish
okay.
things.
Carpish.
So yeah, like carpice comes from carpe,
Okay.
And the last one, a justiça vem de esfirra. Also with the drive on the voice.
Okay.
And this one is kind of hard to explain because it means justice sells esfirras. Do you know esfirra? What is esfirra?
No.
Like those.
Is it tasty?
Yeah, it's a food.
Oh, it
those
is?
like a small pizza-like bread with a topping on it, like usually
So
meat,
like a pizza?
chicken. It's a small pizza. It's a snack.
Small
It's a
pizza.
snack.
Okay.
It's a snack.
Okay.
A small savory snack, And it goes like justice sells esfirras. But
Justice sells tiny pizzas.
there's a pun because it doesn't mean anything, right? It's not correct in any way. But in Portuguese, Farah's voice line is a justiça vem de cima, and it means justice comes from above,
Right.
right? But a justiça vem de cima e a justiça vem de esfirra are very alike, so that's why this caster uses this. Although it means
that's
something
funny.
completely different, but a justiça
Oh.
vem de cima and a justiça vem de esfirra are alike in Portuguese.
You guys are so clever, by the way. I am
Oh, thank
loving
you.
all of like the wordplay and like the little puns and stuff. Justice reigns from above. So badass. A justice sells tiny pizzas.
Yeah, exactly.
That's so funny. Okay. All right. So the first one, look out for the angry monkey. Look out for the angry gorilla. So, okay, I'm gonna guess that's Vasech.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Next one, which is it's not gonna happen.
Mhm.
It's like right.
Also, feel free to try and pronounce the words if you want to.
Oh my god, no!
The
But then I'll
Portuguese
just
one.
like I'm just gonna make everybody. I'm just gonna embarrass myself, and everybody's gonna be pissed at me.
Surely
I-
not.
I just like okay. Is it now Vidar?
Yep, basically.
Close?
Mhm.
Kind of?
Close.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Okay. Dead on arrival. It's not gonna happen. I think
Mhm.
that seems like something. I said that it seems like something a color caster would say, but now I'm like second guessing myself. Justice sells tiny pizzas. That's so funny. I'm still thinking about it. Well, okay. I'm gonna say that this would be something that you would say.
Okay.
All right. So this is a Tonello phrase.
Okay.
Wait. What's the next one?
Next one is like, wow, this gives me like a chill on
Chills.
spines. Yes,
Okay.
Chills. Yeah.
That's probably a play-by-play thing, and maybe it is from. I'm just looking at these pictures. Somebody who's like, like that's like. Okay, maybe it's Peter.
Okay. All right.
All right, that's my guess. I have no idea. And then the next one, which is like that was perfect. It was
Exactly.
executed
Mhm.
perfectly, right? All right. Okay. Again, I have no idea. We're gonna say it's Nevis because he seems like somebody who would know perfection when he sees it.
Okay. All right.
And the next one is carpe, doing carpe things. Is Anna included in this?
Yeah, sure, she is.
Oh, she is? Okay, balls. Well, maybe I need to go back then. um, hmm,
I mean, all the six are included, so there's
all
six
six are
phrases
included.
for
That's
for
true. That's
six
true.
people. All right.
I'm not a numbers person, so
Oh, no
I'm just kidding.
problem.
I can count to six most days. Balls. Okay, let's see. Well then, I'm gonna say Anna said that it was executed perfectly. I'm gonna say
Okay.
Neves said carpe doing carpe things because I can see that
All
happening.
right.
And then that means that Demo is the one who came up with justice sells tiny pizzas.
All right. So
That's just such a great phrase. I'm going to remember that forever. I want to use it on cast now.
so you got nothing correct.
Yeah! Yes!
Yay.
Well, at least I predicted that I got nothing right. Okay, so
Yeah,
give it to me.
but-
Who actually
All right,
said
so
justice
the
sells tiny
first
pizzas? I
one-
have to know.
Oh, so
Okay, well, we'll go in
starting
order.
off
Okay, we'll go in
starting
order.
off from the
Okay.
first one who says it is Nevis. All right. And it's
Oh,
become his
okay.
like most famous phrase of all time. And it's from the Overwatch League casting. On the first day he was like, "Man, I'm not going to say gorilla correctly because I will end up tripping and I will end up just, saying things messy. So I'll just say it wrong." From the beginning, because from the start people know that I'm dumb guy and I'll just say gorilla and it catched and it got pretty well and everyone says gorilla instead of gorilla right now, so
Aw.
dictionaries are thinking of a change in the
That's so
language.
cute, though. That's great.
So next one is from Petter, from a play-by-play caster. All right, and it
Oh,
happens
okay.
when the overtime is ticking and there's no one else coming and he goes like, this won't be possible, like não vai dar, não vai dar. All right.
No, I don't.
The third one is from Anna. She uses to say
Oh.
this like, "Oh, this actually gave me chills when something really incredible happens, or when a play happens, or when a statistics is just over the top. When something incredible happens, she goes like, 'Oh, this gives me chills.'" But this one is hard because Sirikuchiku is not actually chills. It's like something that you feel that makes you like excited, that makes you happy, that it's
Okay.
something like that. And even Brazilians have some difficulties on translating this. Next one is mine, actually. So
Hey!
yeah, it means that the execution was perfect, and we actually highlight the perfeita, this part, like,
Perfeita. Like that?
exactly. So
Okay.
we usually highlight that. Next one is from Demo, the once again carpe doing carpe things, and the last one is from Vesetti, and this one is one of his oldies. He saw it on a Twitch chat, I think, and he asked that person the right to use the word, the phrase, and then since then he occasionally uses this phrase when a pharaoh, when there's this huge barrage and all. So this one is Facets. Yeah.
Justice sells tiny pizzas.
It's a play-by-play statement. I don't know how he does that, but he does. And yeah, that's it. So I mean, that's it, Ham.
0 for 6. We'll see if Boop can do any better.
All right.
I'm
I'll try
also
this with
guessing-
him.
Yeah, you should. I'd be really curious to see what he comes up with if he thinks of, if he manages to get any of them right, because that's so
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah,
That was
is,
fun.
That is. Thank you. And now it's your time. I mean, just deliver a final message. Deliver like a hello to someone, or say something to people that were
Hi, Mom.
following you, or or sing a song. I don't know. I mean, thank you
Sing a song.
thank you so much for joining me. And I mean, now the space is yours to say whatever you want.
Well, hey guys. I mean, thank you, Tonello, for having me on. It's always fun. Like, honestly, it's always so much fun to just like hang out and chat, and I enjoy every one of our conversations. But if you guys, viewers, want any more HamTornado content, you can always follow me on Twitter at ham__tornado. Some dongus took like all the other versions of it. And you can always catch me and Boop on NA Contenders. We are now coming into playoffs, so no broadcast for this week, but the following Monday will be the first day of playoffs. It's Monday through Wednesday. So if you're interested, you can always catch that at twitch.tv/Overwatch Contenders. But that's about it from me. It's been a pleasure.
All right, thank you so much once again, and now let me just end the show or end the video in Portuguese, otherwise people will get completely lost. And if you're watching this in English from Reddit or whatever, I mean, if you're feeling like subscribing to this channel, it will be a pleasure. Maybe we'll have more content in English, even with my rusty English, but that's not a problem.
Oh, stop.
And
it's also something every time I talk to you. My English is so bad. It's so good, dude.
Oh, thank you so much. And now, for the Portuguese viewers, muito obrigado, galera, você que está assistindo até agora. Enfim, foi uma experiência muito legal trocar ideia com a Ham. Ela que vem de fora, ela que é americana, então a gente sempre tem essa troca de ideias e é muito legal saber como que é o casting lá também. Se você curtiu, deixa o seu like e se inscreva no canal. Enfim, faz a mesma coisa que você faz no Lucas Neto aqui também, que ajuda bastante o canal. Um grande abraço a todo mundo e até mais.